Good evening. My name is Samuel, and I want to welcome you to night number 3 of our Creation Life Seminar. If you remember, we started with talking about choice on the first night, the fact that God created us with the ability to choose, and He wants us to make decisions for ourselves. And I'm glad to see that you are making decisions, good decisions, to be here tonight as well. Remember, last night we talked about rest. Good memory. Yes, very good. Rest. So Dr. Tasserly was here with us last night, and he presented to us this topic of rest. Today, as you entered, as you checked in, you should have received a very important piece, okay? So this is, do you have it? Candy. It's candy. You need to have it. If you don't have it, now the instructions you're supposed to be given is not to eat it until we tell you so, okay? So don't eat it yet, but make sure you have it, okay? Because this is very important for us for tonight. Last night also, I gave a challenge to you, and I said if you bring a guest, you will get a gift. So do we have anybody who brought a guest tonight? Okay. I'm hoping that there will be more people coming. I'm sure there will be more people coming. So hopefully somebody will have remembered that we need to bring a guest. So as we always do, we want to give away a couple of books. And the first one is to the person who can answer the following question. Last night in his presentation, Dr. Tasserly mentioned that the optimal length of time for a nap is how many minutes? Raise your hand, okay? Okay, so you raise your hand and I'll acknowledge you. I think one of these two kids was first. Who was first? Oh, Jack, you are so... Hannah, how many? 26 minutes. Is she correct? All right. So, okay, I guess you're going to get a special gift that's more special than this. I don't know what could it be. I don't know, but you know what, Hannah? I'll give you one of these at the end. What is that? All right. Then we want to give this book to the person who traveled here the longest. So is anybody here who... Okay, we're going to find out soon. But anybody who traveled more than 1 hour to get here? More than 50 minutes? Okay, more than 40 minutes. Okay. More than 40 minutes. So we have, I'll give you one. You're going to get one anyway. But more than 30 minutes? No? Okay, we have somebody there in the back. Okay, so thank you. Thank you for coming. I know that it will be worth your 1 hour of travel to come and go back home, okay? So we are just about to start. Our topic tonight is the environment. What is the environment? It's everything that happens outside of us that influences our lives, what is happening inside of us. And before we start, I want to make sure you have your candy. Okay, don't eat it. Do you have candy? Everybody should have received candy. It's important, okay? So don't eat it yet. We'll tell you when, okay? And the second thing, anybody here that brought a guest? Okay, nobody here yet. Okay, well, we are going to move on, and at the end, if somebody brings a guest, we do have a special gift for them as well. So tonight, our presenter is Laura Lucio. And Laura's heart is happiest sitting at the feet of Jesus, learning to practice the rhythm of rest and service. She's a passionate advocate for Adventist women, and as such, she serves as the volunteer coordinator for women ministries in the Illinois Conference. She's supporting local women ministry church leaders in their God-given mission. As a profession, Laura is a director at Ipsos, where she leads experienced research projects and is currently also pursuing her MBA at University of Illinois. Laura is married to Matthew, and together they are raising two girls, Erith, who is 10 years old, and Arwen, who is 6. In her free time, she enjoys reading books and tending to her growing collection of, anybody? Children, okay. Okay. That's a good guess, but it's not what it says here. Growing collection of candles, okay. That's a good one. We do have a candle here. Growing collection of plants. Okay, so she loves plants. So Laura, we want to welcome you tonight to our Creation Life seminar. And
for that warm welcome, I really appreciate it. Anyone else here a plant lover, plant parent, plant mom? Okay, what's your favorite plant? Or Jade tree, okay. Christmas, oh, I love those so much. That's amazing. I'll need to know your secrets, because mine is pretty sad. Do you? Tomatoes? Oh my goodness, I love tomatoes. Anyway, I saw some more hands in the back. Monstera, yes. Oh, have you been to the Tulip Festival up north in Holland, Michigan? You would love it. Mother's Day weekend is a beautiful, Holland, Michigan, Tulip Festival. You gotta go. Sunflowers, oh my goodness, yes. They're just so beautiful. You know, all you need truly is just one sunflower in a bud vase, and it just changes the whole environment. Anyone else? Orchids. That's funny because that's what we're going to talk about. But yeah, so I love, yes. I love plants. I actually love plants so much that I named them. So like I have a fiddle leaf. The fiddle leaf's name is Fiona. I have a spider plant whose name is Mary Jane, as in Mary Jane and Spider-Man, not Mary Jane, you know, the other kind of plant. My prayer plant is Teresa, from Mother Teresa, and so forth. So we recently took a trip in a tropical place. It's been a year and a half now, holy moly. But I loved seeing all of my houseplants just like on sidewalks, you know, just roughing it in the wild. And, you know, I was like, they look so different, you know, just like the orchids, like they look so different in their natural habitat compared to how they look in my window, on my windowsill. And, you know, I think that, I remember seeing a fiddle leaf that it was like probably 30 times as big as Fiona. And you know, there's nobody putting plant food or like shaking it a little bit to get it, you know, for more leaves to show up. No one is like trimming it, but it's you know, great and huge. And same with the Monstera plants. My goodness, there were so many. We were hiking and they were all over. And same with orchids. So this is like an orchid in their natural habitat. And this is my orchid. in the kitchen sink. And, it's healthy, but you see there that, you see that little stub there. What happened was we were changing our countertops and we leaned it, but we didn't lean it right, and it fell on the plant, so it severed the leaf, and it still somehow bloomed, and that was a miracle. But I bet that this orchid would very much love its own habit and its own natural environment rather than, being in my kitchen sink next to a dirty sponge. But here it is, but ever since I was little, I loved orchids. That I still remember the moment when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I decided that orchids were my favorite flowers. So, anyways, I do feel for my orchids, for all of my plants, right? I talk to them and I tell them, I understand this is not truly where you belong. You belong in your environment, in your natural environment. And I think our time on this earth is a lot like being a houseplant. I think we were created for a different environment. And just like our houseplants, the more we replicate their natural environment, the more they will grow and bloom and look healthy, right? But I think that if we don't, then we will struggle to grow. And in general, on this side of heaven, we struggle to grow where we were never meant to be planted, right? In a sin-influenced world, if you will. It reminds me a lot of the Bible verse in Psalm chapter 1, verses 1 through 3, where it says, "Blessed is the one whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on his law day and night. That person is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers." And this is why I think our environment matters. It matters because it helps us grow. It will either stump our growth or it will promote our growth. So how do we prosper? That's why I think I love the creation life principles so much. This particular principle environment reminds us of the importance of our surroundings, whether surroundings at home, surroundings in nature, surroundings in our garden, surroundings in our bedroom. It really does matter because, I would propose to you that the reason why it matters is because we need to replicate Eden as much as possible. And the more we replicate the environment that we were created to be in, the more we will be able to grow and get closer to what God had in store for us, what He had planned for us. And I think that if God of heaven, who can speak a world into existence, still took 6 full days to design our world, I think us mere mortals should take the time to design our environment. So I want to talk about 3 main environments tonight. And then we're going to do Q&A. We'll look at things more tactically. But right now I want us to get back to the basics, right? To this particular, why this is important, why our environment matters so much. And there are 3 environments that matter, that I would suggest to you that matters most. Oops, nope, that wrong button. I think it's our sleeping space, our working space, and our leisure space. And, obviously everything is connected, so, like our sleeping space may also, depending on your house or your environment, it may also be your working space or your leisure space. If you work from home, then, again, it's connected. So taking the time to design and create these environments in a way that replicates Eden as much as possible. In my case, that is just more plants, a growing collection of plants. The more we'll get closer to that, to those principles. So let's start with the sleeping space. What's the first thing you do every day? You wake up, right? You wake up, hopefully, right? What I've often found is that however my night went, that's how my day will go. And I am sure that I'm not alone in this, right? So that's why, going back to that, that's why I think these three spaces are so important, because they are connected. So anyone else stayed up too late doom scrolling TikTok, and then the next morning you're like, I'm deleting everything, every social media, I'm done. I'm a true millennial, so I watch TikTok reels on Instagram. Like, that's a stereotype. Anyways, I digress. But our sleeping space should be melatonin-inducing, right? It's because I don't think Eden had a melatonin supplement, growing in trees, right? It was the fruit or the vegetables or the environment that they were in, with the sun setting, with the noises lulling them to sleep, with the softness of moss, or whatever that environment is. Sometimes I picture it, and what I picture, I think it won't even come close to what God has in store for us there. But I really think that it's worth asking, what kind of environment naturally allows our bodies to release melatonin? The author of Why We Sleep, it's a great book, it's fascinating, it's by Dr. Matthew Walker. He introduced me to the concept of sleep hygiene. And not like hygiene, like brushing your teeth, though that's important, but hygiene in the sense of setting up an environment and a routine that invites your body into rest, right? And I think some of those things were touched on last night. And I think, so here are a few tips specifically for the sleep hygiene that he was talking about, is cooling the room, because your body needs to lower its temperature. Dim the lights as the evening approaches. Bright lights, especially blue light, will block melatonin. Declutter the space. This reminds me of Genesis, right, when God told them, tend to the garden, right? Don't let it get cluttered. Don't let it, trim, make sure that the garden is neat and in orderly fashion. Because a decluttered space will provide you with a calm and whatever you see as far as the clean environment will also mirror our brains, and it will give our brains the permission to wind down. And finally, I think that consistency is key. We can't declutter once and then just kind of let it all pile back up. And that's why, again, I think everything is connected, right? Whatever routines we have for sleep will impact the routines that we have for work, will impact the space for leisure. But consistency trains our body to rest better. And because it's not about sleep, right, necessarily. It's about the restful sleep that we get. And it's like letting your roots soak up nutrients all night long, right? And that's why it's so important to wherever we sleep, to have a space that will keep us, that will rejuvenate us. Because rest is a gift, right? In Psalm 127, verse 2, he says, he gives his beloved sleep. And brothers and sisters, you are so loved, and you deserve sleep. You deserve rest. And I think that when we rest, when we treat our sleep space as sacred, we're saying, God, I trust you enough to rest, to let things go, to just be. Now let's talk about our workspace. Our workspaces are meant to increase focus and hopefully reduce anxiety and stress because depending on your job, it can be quite stressful, right? A classroom full of very loud little ones can be quite overstimulating. Someone who works in a hospital, right? There are a lot of lights, a lot of noises, machines beeping, and so forth. It can be quite overstimulating. But whether you're working from home in an office, out in the field, or managing a home full of little ones, your environment affects your energy, focus, and even your emotional well-being. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately just felt drained? You didn't even know why? Or on the flip side, you might have walked into a room that inspired you to get stuff done. And, sometimes we'll flip through those magazines, that are so perfectly designed. And it's like, how do I get my space to look like that? Anyways, I think that either way, God wired us to work, but he wired us for boundaries, not to be constantly exhausted or burned out or, being in that same environment, in the work environment. So that's why it's so important. And here are a few things to consider for your workspace. Natural light, if you can, set up near a window, because sunlight helps regulate your body clock and lifts your mood. Personally, so I work from home. I'm at a computer for a long period of time, every day. I use the Pomodoro method. I don't know if you've heard of this technique where you work for 25 minutes, you focus, for 25 minutes, and then you take 5-minute break, and then 25 and 5. That doesn't work if you're in a lot of meetings, but if you're doing deep dive work, it works. And then for those 5 minutes, I tend to go outside, and then after 3 of those repeats, I take a 15-minute break, and I'll either walk the dogs or, get a snack or whatnot. But that natural light will help remind your body that it's daylight, that it's that there's more beyond just a blue screen in front of you. Plants, yes, back to plants. Even one little desk plant can reduce stress and boost creativity because it'll boost serotonin. Noise matters. Some people thrive in silence. Others need some kind of background music. So pay attention to what you pay attention to. Pay attention to what works for you. And sometimes you may need music one day and silence the next, or a podcast, or an audiobook. But noise matters. And again, I mentioned boundaries because if you work, depending on where you work, it's really hard to step away until you get closure for a task or you get closure for the day or whatnot. And it can be really, really hard. But it is important to not let your desk become your dining table and your bed your office. I think it reminds me of what Colossians says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord. And again, this is so important. I almost want to work at your boundaries as working for the Lord, right? Just as much as we work, for our livelihood. And when your environment supports your focus and health, though, it's a whole lot easier to offer our best to God. Finally, leisure space. The place where you recharge, connect, enjoy life, spend time with family, friends. I think we often underestimate how deeply God values this space. And I go back to Eden, right? Because they spent time in the garden. They spent time with each other. They spent time with God, walking, right? They would walk with God. They would talk with him. And it was a time where God was present with them and they were present with God. And some of the best recharging times for me have been, going for a hike, going for a walk, just out in nature, hearing the birds, seeing the trees move. There's something special about the world that God created for us, and we often underestimate, the power of that. So the problem is that in this sin-influenced world, we often fill our leisure time with screen time, movies, doom scrolling, or even more work. So what if instead of that, we created more curated spaces? Again, we go back to if God took 6 full days, even though he could have spoken all into existence within a second, he took 6 full days. He took his time to design beautiful spaces for us and beautiful things for us. Who are we as mere mortals not to do the same and take even more time? So think about these things. Design a cozy corner, a space where you read or you journal or you pray or you just be. Create a tech-free zone, dinner tables, bedrooms, even part of your living room. Let there be places where people connect with people, not with devices. And invest in hobbies. Plant lover over here, I have books, I have plant foods, I have pots, I have things that bring me joy to just stick my hands in the dirt and replace, uproot, repot, soak in, give them spa days and so forth because plants are life. I digress. But you could do, you could play an instrument or Legos or, whatever brings you joy, let it fill your soul. And invite community in. We were not, God said it is not good for man to be alone, right? And it goes both ways, for humans to be alone. We need that connection. And if we design environments that invites others in and invites that connection organically and naturally, it fills the soul in ways that nothing else can. So yeah, let your environment be a memory-making space. Jesus said in John 10:10, I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. Friends, let your environment help you live your life to the fullest. He didn't create us to just work. He didn't create us to just lay in bed all day or be couch potatoes. He created us for rhythms of work, right? 6 days a week, work, rest. And I think the more we replicate what he had in mind for us in Eden, again, the more we will be, we'll get closer to him and to each other. So whether you're tending to a sleep space that renews, a workspace that sustains, or a leisure space that brings joy, every intentional choice is like planting a seed of Eden, a reminder of what we were created for. We weren't made for concrete sidewalks or artificial light, not even artificial plants. We were made for a garden that was full of beautiful monsteras and fiddle leaves and fruits that we can't even imagine today. And the more, although we can't go back to Eden, again, the more we replicate that, we can bring glimpses of it into our everyday life, into our environment. Every space we touch can reflect God's original design of beauty, of order, of peace and connection. Not a sin-influenced environment. The more, I think that's afterwards. Yes. So again, what I would like to invite you is to delight in the way God has called us to be like trees planted by streams of water, deep roots, fruit in season, a leaf that does not wither. Let's be intentional about where we plant ourselves and how we care for the environments we've been given. Because even in a sinfluenced world, God is still growing beautiful things in you and me and all around us.
So much, Laura. So you can take a little break.
Absolutely.
And then we are going to. How many of you want to have a better environment at home and at work and leisure environment, right? Everybody. Okay, good, good. So let's try to figure out ways that we can do this. All right. So we mentioned that Creation Life as a seminar is based on the creation story. So I want to ask here my good and smart friends, if you could just imagine the Garden of Eden, everything that God created there for Adam and Eve, what are some of the things that they might have experienced, let's say the first week that God created them? What, if you let your imagination just run wild a little bit, what do you think, what are some of the things that, they maybe experienced there in that garden?
I wonder what it was like the first time they ate any food. And I wonder what it was. I imagine it being a fruit, and maybe a juicy apple or a mango or something, and the explosion of taste. That must have been an incredible sense to taste food. And once you've had one, I think I'd be running around. I think I'd gain like 50 pounds the first week, running around the garden, finding, oh, can I eat this? Can I eat that? And seeing what can I eat? What tastes good?
Do you have a favorite fruit?
So I've got two favorite fruits.
Okay.
Feijoas and passion fruit.
Okay. How many of you know what's a feijoa? Because I don't know what's a feijoa.
You're not from New Zealand. We don't export those to the rest of the world.
Okay. So what else?
I don't know about Adam, but if I were there, I would have wandered around and, touch everything, look at all the colors and shapes.
So what would be some of the things that you would touch?
All plants and trees and grass and whatever was there.
No lion. Get your finger in the manes
Animals,
of
of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you would taste, or Adam tasted, you would...
Look and touch, and
Okay.
this is how I learned.
Okay.
I wonder if they were kind of like children who basically see some animals for the first time, asking God, what is that? Or maybe Adam saw them and named them, right? So he would hear the elephant, the sound of the elephant, or the lion roaring, and enjoying that, or hopefully not being scared.
If Adam and Eve spoke Hebrew, they would have asked, what is this? That is manhu, and that is the word for manna. So everything is coming from heaven. Everything is a manna if you haven't seen it before. Everything is new. Everything is amazing.
So
Okay.
I remember my excitement when the Nintendo 64 first came out. And I played Mario 64, and it's a 3D. And as a kid, my heart was just racing with joy as I'm like, this guy can move around and all the things that he could do, just realizing. And so I think of Adam like, oh, man, I can jump. Let me see how high I can jump. And smell like, oh, what is that? That smells wonderful, smelling the flowers. And just, I think back to that joy and imagine how that's a video game, and it's imperfect, and I'm not part of it, but how much more would it have been for Adam, just everything, moving fingers, every feeling, touch, taste, smell, sight, sound, would have been incredible.
Yeah, can you imagine hearing the wind? Was there wind in the Garden of Eden? I assume there was, right? Rustling through the leaves, and the smell of pine trees. Do you think they had pine trees over there? Smells good, right?
What about touching the water for the first time or jumping in a lake? Did they know how
Getting
to
wet?
swim?
Yes.
Or did God teach them how to swim?
Yeah, that's amazing. I remember when I did a baptism in Kalahari Desert, maybe half of those baptized touched that much water for the first time. And they were, didn't know exactly how to process that and
Yeah.
didn't know even what to ask about it.
Do you know that the majority of people on earth have never experienced snow? Think of it. The majority of people on the earth have never seen, never touched, seen like in real life. We just returned from the Philippines, and that is what some of the children that we met there were asking me about. What is snow like? Like out of everything, out of the whole things that, they asked me, how tall am I? And about snow. Okay, so how did God create us to interact with the environment around us?
Well, and I think we basically touched on that answer in the previous one with sight, touch, smell, taste, but there are other senses as well that we don't think about as much.
So it is through our senses which were created by God. For what purpose?
We are created in His image with a capacity to communicate, to interact with Him. And in our worship experience, we have a little bit of everything.
What do you mean in our worship experience? Who's us, our?
So think about people of Israel in the Old Testament, the sanctuary service.
Okay.
They were visuals. There is an audio component. There is smell, like incense.
So,
When God revealed Himself
by
in the
the way,
mountain,
hold that thought, because earlier today we had an exciting thing happen here. We were trying to cause a nice aroma here in this church for you to experience the smell, and that's why we have a little candle there. But we had some, that burning wood thing, and guess what happened? This church has very good alarm system. So it started beeping, so we couldn't use it. But what is Gabriel saying? He's talking about the fact that when you go to worship God, God said, burn some incense. Why? For what?
it's a mutual enjoyment. The Bible says that God likes it, and we as human beings.
So are you saying that God has senses as well?
I don't know in what way, and I'm not going that route, but we are created in the image of God, and a God who wants to interact with us is using multiple ways to interact.
And I think that opens us up to thinking about how we set up our personal spiritual space at home, our space with God. It's not just let a light in, have a comfortable area, but what about smell? We had some wonderfully fragrant flowers here a few weeks ago, and the sanctuary smelled amazing. And so I would find myself walking through the sanctuary just to smell the flowers. And so what can we do to bring taste and smell into our worship experience? Because it was in the sanctuary service, all the five senses. So I think we can think about that as well.
Some of the verses in the Old Testament, they actually talk about a sweet-smelling aroma pleasing to God. Mm-hmm. So I would assume that God enjoys some smells, and maybe He dislikes some others. I don't think He likes the smell of death, for example. Mm-hmm. So I wonder how many senses does God have? If we have, 5 that we usually use, and maybe some others that we are not really aware of them. But I was thinking of an analogy. Can you think of a time when you tried to connect your device to another device and they didn't have the same way of communication, or you didn't have the right cable? You know, God created us wirelessly to enjoy all these senses, except for touch, right? The other ones, you know, we can see, we can smell, we can hear, even from afar.
And Samuel, remember when God revealed himself to Moses and to the people of Israel on the mountain, how many senses were involved from, it was like an earthquake, and the glory of God was extremely bright.
So tell us more. What was there? Earthquake? So they felt it.
It was like a 4D movie, right, in our times.
Okay, 4D. Okay. So there was flashes of lightning, and there was thunder, and there was smoke, right?
An earthquake, the
Yes.
touch.
Yes. So what's the purpose of our senses?
Connect,
To connect,
interact.
to interact, okay? Defense or safety, okay? What do you say? To understand,
To enjoy.
to enjoy. Finding food, okay, what sense is that? So the smell, right?
Hunger.
Hunger.
Unless we know I need to find food.
Okay, so
or
there is
sleep, as
something
we learned last
called-
night.
Listen, interoception. Interoception, that is the internal awareness. So that's how we know when we are hungry or thirsty or in pain. What else? Senses. You alluded, one of you. Can it be that our senses are purely for our pleasure? Is anybody uncomfortable with what I just said? Especially as a Christian, as a Seventh-day Adventist Christian. The senses were created, or we were created with senses to enjoy, to have pleasure.
Can we maybe use delight? Because the Garden of Eden, I think the name Eden is actually delight. So God gave them a space, an environment that was called delight. And He placed them there, and I would assume, to enjoy, to delight.
Okay. I think this is a good time to take out the candy. Now, I hope all of you can open it, okay? Because it may be difficult.
We didn't get any.
Okay, you know what? I'm not going to open it because I won't be able to talk with candy in my mouth. But I want you to open it. So everybody should have gotten candy. Everybody has candy? Okay, open it. So let me tell you what it is. It's a ginger-based candy, okay? One of my favorite desserts, candy. Go ahead and take it and experience it, okay? And here, Laura, I have one for you. You don't have to share. It's too small. Okay. So go ahead and I want you to kind of experience it, okay? And we're going to experience it here together. While you do this and think about it, we're gonna maybe go to another question here for our discussion, and that is the following. Does the Bible say anything about senses? We already mentioned some. Any other verses? Anybody can think of any verses?
Psalms 34:8. I think I heard that one. Taste and see that the Lord is good.
Okay, what does God say with that? Yes? To experience Him, to taste Him. How do we taste God, right? Somebody else said something else. Yes. So after the flood, Noah, right? Noah came out of the ark and they offered the sacrifice to thank God for his protection during the flood. So it says that God smelled the sweet aroma of that sacrifice. Yes, thank you. Anybody else? Yes. Okay, in one of the Psalms that God satisfies the desires of every living thing.
Another story that comes to mind, I don't know if any one of you saw the series about David on Amazon Prime. Well, David is playing the harp, right? So he's using that song to calm the spirit of Saul. So he is hired by the king to come and play for him, and the spirit that was troubling Saul will run away.
Yeah.
I just want to mention that journey from Genesis 1 and 2 all the way to Genesis 11, the Tower of Babel. And that journey was away from nature. And with most people living in cities nowadays, I would suggest the journey the other way, back to nature, because nature is medicine. We may not be able to explain how it works, but Finland is one of the happiest countries in the world in the last 10 years, several years in a row. And their motto is, take it to the woods. When you are stressed out and you don't know what to do, just go for a walk in nature, and that will solve many problems. Stress control, and there are many complex mechanisms in the body which explain why nature is healing. And go ahead.
I was just going to add to that. Genesis 1:29 says, and God said, behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed on the face of the earth, and every tree with its seed, and you shall have them for food. And then later on he says he gives leafy greens for the healing of the nation. And so often we think of this as eating, but like you said, it's not just eating, it's being out, walking through the woods, going by a waterfall, getting in early morning and after thunderstorms, there's negatively charged ions in the air that do really well for our body if we take them in. So it's not just what we eat, it's being in nature and experiencing nature also has healing properties.
The context, the environments.
Yes. So, how's the candy? Okay, it was wonderful. Okay, explain to me. Tell me, how would you describe it? Okay, somebody didn't like it.
Spicy, someone said.
Okay, so we can talk about the texture, right? Was it sweet? Sweet. Was it a little bit spicy? Yes. And chewy. Okay, it was the texture of it, right? It kind of stuck to your teeth. Okay, make sure you brush your teeth tonight and tomorrow. What else? Aroma of what? So there are two kinds. One was orange and the other one was mango. I don't know which one you got, but there is a little bit of a taste there as well. So why am I giving you this? This is the Bible verse that inspired me to give you this candy. It's Psalm 34, verse 7. And it says this: take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Take delight in the Lord. So that word delight in the original language is the word for a delicacy. Like we have the delicatessen stores, and it is a delicacy. God wants us to delight in Him, to experience Him, to chew on Him, to taste His sweetness and His goodness and His spiciness. For those of you who like spicy, okay? And God will forgive those who thought the candy was awful, okay? He will. He's a loving and gracious God, so He forgives those too.
You know, taste is a very interesting concept that we can relate to God. If I ask you to tell me how an apple tastes, you're going to have a really hard time doing it. You could say it's crispy, it's cool, but what does an apple taste like? What is the taste of an apple? What is the taste of an orange? And if you're thinking, if you're trying to, what words would, well, sweet and cool, but no, what is the unique taste? Because an apple can be sweet, an orange can be sweet, and our brains have a hard time recalling the taste experiences we go through. When we're going through it, we can have it in our minds. We can enjoy it. And I can think about what a feijoa tastes like, but I couldn't tell you what it tastes like. I can give you things that it's similar to. But the same thing's true with God. You know, taste is an instantaneous, a momentary experience. Same thing's true with God. We have these experiences when we're with Him in His Word, when we're spending time with Him. These are momentary experiences. But if we expect that, I read the Bible when I was 4 years old, to go with me through life, the further we get away, the less, we might have that, okay, an apple tastes like this, but we don't remember. We don't remember all the details. And this is where we need to keep coming back to that experience with God and keep coming back and tasting and seeing that He is good.
Do you think that's because, like, the fruits are maybe the primary senses or tastes? I have my youngest, he's into fragrances now. So he goes to the stores and he likes all kinds of perfumes. And you look at the perfume and it lists what ingredients, what smells it has. Bergamot, orange. So those will be kind of like from nature combined. And this is a combination. So maybe that's why we cannot really tell what an apple tastes like, because you will compare something else with an apple. This one has an apple flavor, or this one has an orange flavor. Those are the original flavors.
Sorry, we're getting philosophical up
Yeah,
here.
so the last 2 weeks I mentioned I was on a mission trip to the Philippines. And for the first time in my life, I ate fresh jackfruit. Anybody know what the jackfruit is? Okay, some of you, good. So I've never had it. I very little in like turon. The Filipinos make this turon, and I know it's with banana and jackfruit, but I never actually had the fruit itself. So I had the opportunity, and honestly, I don't know how to tell you what it tastes like. Like if you don't know what it tastes like a peach, but it's not really like a peach, and the texture is different too, right? So God is amazing. That God created us with these senses for us to enjoy interacting with our environment. That's what it is, interacting with other people and interacting ultimately with Him. We want to invite Laura to join us back here, and I want to remind you, if you have questions, there is a phone number that you can text these questions to, and that phone number, if we can put it on the screen, and if it's up there?
Yeah.
Okay. So the phone number is on the screen. Are you sure?
Yes.
Is it on the screen? Okay.
630-708-7889.
Oh, it's so small. Okay, I don't see it. Okay, so
When you get to heaven, God is going to improve your sight and give you a better sense there so you'll be able to see it.
And
Come back
your
and you can read it.
faith. to trust us.
I wanna affirm what Laura mentioned. Laura mentioned that this greenery, plants, right? They make a big difference. Gabriel talked about a return to nature. We live in cities made of concrete and steel and glass, and that is so unnatural for us as human beings. God created us and placed us in a garden, and He gave us a job to do. Even in a perfect environment, we are to tend and take care of the garden. There are benefits that we enjoy when we are in touch with the dirt, with the leaves, with the grass, with nature. But we're gonna move on, and I wanna. I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but I know I will on some of your toes. Is that okay? Okay. So the question is this: how can we best engage with a person who hoards? With a hoarder. Okay, I wish I could tell you that I'm a recovering hoarder. I'm not recovering yet, okay? Like the brother who the other day said that he's professional at procrastinating, okay? So, do we know those people? How many of you know somebody who kind of has a tendency to hoard, okay? Now, those of you who don't raise your hand, we know who you are, okay? So, what do you think? How can we best help somebody whose environment at home and in the garage, and sometimes you see it in their car, and it's, for me, it's sad.
What I learned is that every moving from one place to another, it's an experience of grace. You have to, look at everything you have, and you have to rank them, what is important, what is not. You are going to decide what is necessary for the next stage of your life, and we'll take it with you. So, more time you move, the lower chance is to, remain a hoarder.
That is true. I mean, we recently.
We need a mic for.
I have one. Oh, there I am. Yeah. We recently moved, actually last Monday. So I feel that to my core because we had so many, some of the boxes, we kept boxing. I was like, oh, we're good. We're doing great. And then we moved the boxes and somehow things just kept coming up to pack more things. And I don't consider myself a hoarder. we tend to get rid of stuff and we still accumulate. I feel like even when you try not to, things just accumulate. And
you receive gifts, for instance.
yeah, yes. But if we are, to your point, if we are dealing with a true hoarder, what I would do is, again, we go back to the why. Why are they hoarding? A lot of times, hoarding is an external symptom of something that is happening on the inside. And I think figuring out what causes them to hoard, because a lot of times a hoarder will do it for comfort, right? Like they will hoard for example, my grandmother, God rest her soul, she was a child during World War II, right? So she went through extreme poverty, and that was a reason why she would hoard.
Also, I learned to be a good example. I looked at my personal library, and I said that the books that I didn't touch in the last 5 years, I will give them away. So I filled 2 trunks full of books.
Wow.
Very good quality. Amazing. I invested in each of those books, and each one is so important, so close to my heart. So I filled my trunk and I took them to church, and I said, look, these are amazing books, but I'm decluttering. I'm simplifying my life, and I follow this movement of simplicity for some time. And I think being a good example for others is important.
My wife likes organizing, and so for Christmas, we'll give her a Christmas present of helping her organize the house. And so we'll go room by room and get rid of stuff we no longer need. And as we go through life, as the kids grow up, there's stuff that's no longer relevant, and that really helps when we move. When we move, if we don't need something in the new house, but we want to keep it, we put it in the basement. When we move again, if we don't use it in the new house, we get rid of it. And so little things like that, I think, can help, taking a time where you go through room by room and just inventorying. Like you said, seeing have I used this in the past 2 years? Kitchen gadgets. We can collect tons of kitchen gadgets for making ravioli or, every little thing. But when was the last time we used it?
The things are tools. The moment they become hindrances, I think they need to go. Last week, when we came here for the rehearsal, as I was driving home, in front of me pulled a car, kind of, close. And I noticed it was full to the brim. And on the passenger side, it was hit. And, the window was covered with plastic. So basically, whoever was driving was a hoarder, filled everything, even on the passenger side, so couldn't see on the mirror on the right-hand side. So it's dangerous. I know someone who passed away. Who kept collecting, filled I don't know how many storage units, and was living like a beggar, but he was paying hundreds of dollars for those storage units. And when he died, he didn't have any will or anything. He lost everything. So that was a reminder for...
So we want to, show compassion, right, to people like that, like me, okay, like her grandma, because I like what you said. It's a external symptom of some pain, some fear, something that's going on. So if any of you struggle with this, try to ask yourself this question: what kind of need is this fulfilling for me? What is the fear? Like I grew up under communist Romania, and we didn't have a lot of stuff. So you might always need something. And oftentimes, Josh, when I throw stuff away, and next week, guess what?
You need it.
I need it. And I'm like, how in the world did I just throw that away? Boy, if I had it today, I would be so happy, right? So thank you for this. Okay, there are some questions coming from the audience. Not sure if this can be answered on today's topic, but did Adam and Eve observe the Sabbath, or was that interrupted because they ate the apple? So I'm not sure if the question is if they observed the Sabbath after eating the apple or before. Yeah, but good question. What do you think? Either way.
Personally, I don't think it happened on Friday. So I think the first Sabbath at least was delight.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know how long they were in the Garden of Eden. No one knows, except God and the angels. But no human being knows how long they were in heaven or in Eden before they ate the apple. And then after they ate the apple, when they were outside of the garden, I like to assume they kept the Sabbath. But again, we don't. There's not that record that continues to say this. But there's no evidence that they didn't either. So I assume they did.
Yeah.
What apple?
What?
Yeah, it was an apple. It was a Granny Smith.
Oh, by the way, the Bible doesn't say it was an apple. It was a fruit, okay? So, any other things to add? So, I believe, my personal opinion, that Adam and Eve would have kept the Sabbath after they ate the fruit, because I believe they did desire to have a connection, a relationship with God. And I believe that God instructed them in the way of happiness, in the way of the abundant life, in the creation life type of a way. God instructed them as to what will make them happy and joyful, and that included not killing each other, not stealing, not having idols, and keeping the Sabbath and the rest of the 10, what do we call them? 10 Commandments. We know that the 10 Commandments were in place before Sinai, before when actually God gave the 10 Commandments in a concrete way. We have another question that came from one of you, or somebody from watching online, and that is, how do you handle your guests that walk in your house with their shoes on? Can you believe that?
That is funny. I mean, I think it depends. I remember when we first came to the U.S. I'm also from Romania.
Yes.
What? But when we first visited someone, an American family, and I remember that they had a basket full of flip-flops, slippers, for guests, or clean. I think they had some fuzzy socks as well, and things like that. So that was their way of, saying, hey, please leave your shoes, grab a pair of socks or slippers if you'd like. I don't think there's anything. I think that is a boundary setting. If your home is a shoeless home, then that is your boundary, and it should be respected. And you can gently share
So
that.
if you come to my house and I tell you, Laura, in our house, we take our shoes off. Do you mind taking your shoes off? Would you be offended?
No,
Okay.
no. I personally, I wouldn't. And as long as, and some, like, I understand, right? Like, if you've been running all day, like, you may not want to take your shoes off because, you don't know what will happen.
Yes.
But still, if you give them an option for something that, to help that insecurity, then, I think that you mitigate that. And at least that's what I took note of that, and that's something that we would do.
Yeah, either that or a place by the door for shoes where other shoes are that let people
Yeah.
know that, hey, this is where you
Yeah.
take your shoes off.
Maybe a picture of the burning bush with a quote that God told Moses.
I don't know if I would go that far. Take your shoes off because God told Moses to do it.
But even if, you gave the example of you're running all day, I know that there are some things that you put on the shoes, on the outside.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So that can be an option for someone who is stuck
Yeah.
to their shoes.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe the reason behind it, a big chunk of this world are taking their shoes off. And that is because the home is a sacred place somehow, in a way or another.
Yeah,
And it's a form of respect.
yeah.
And that may have even a spiritual connotation, and I'm trying to connect with the topic of the night.
Yeah.
We should have a context, an environment, a sacred place where we meet God. And I suggest, especially those who are recently joining the church, to choose a little space. Can be like, a square yard or something, when they kneel and when they have the Bible there corner of a table. That is their way to connect with God. And I learned this from one of my grandfathers. He always used to wash his hands before touching the Bible. He had the Bible always in the same place at the table. It was a large, common shared room. And always kneeling in the same place. It was his sacred place, his sacred way to connect with God. And I respected that. We live in a world where every line is blurred between the sacred and the common. And maybe coming back to Sabbath was a context in time to connect with God, and we may need a space, a sacred space in the same way.
Absolutely.
Even if it's just sacred for you and just maybe for a time.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do want to affirm that can be uncomfortable, to express that boundary. But I think that the more you create a space that kind of insinuates that, more so than just having to say it out loud or make it as comfortable as possible for the other person, I think it can help with that.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Good question. Keep them coming. We may not be able to get to all of them. Are there any concrete examples that prove that the environment actually affects us?
I can speak to that a little bit.
Okay.
I absolutely think so. There's neuroscience actually speaks to that as well. Like if there is a technique when you feel overstimulated or outside of what is called the window of tolerance. One of the techniques, it says to ground yourself with both feet down, take deep breaths in and out, and then find things, find 5 things that you see, 4 things that you hear, 3 things that you smell, 2 things that you taste, and 1 thing that you can touch. So just to bring you back to the environment that you are in, because what happens when you're outside of your window of tolerance, you're dissociating, right? So you're no longer in the environment that you are here, you are remembering a different environment that either brought you, anxiety, stress, and so forth. So bringing you back to the environment that you're in, this exercise will impact you to where your heart rate will reduce its speed. You will be back to yourself in this moment. There's a song by Andrew Peterson, sorry, this one. It's called I Want to Be Where My Feet Are. And I think it's so important because anxiety will always make us think of the future, and depression will always make us think of the past. And I think the environment that we are in today will keep us present and thankful for what God has.
Okay.
I talked to a businessman who had a job in an office, and after a while had to work from home remotely. And he said it was a little bit difficult in the beginning until I realized that I had to wake up at the same time, to take a shower, to put on my business clothes, to go into my office at home, at a space dedicated for that, to create the context of doing business, and the mindset will follow. Our emotions follow actions, follows physical exercise, the posture, the context. All of them have a very significant influence on how we feel and what we do.
Yes. How many of you go to the doctor, and when you go to the doctor, what do? They tell you to roll up your sleeve for a blood pressure. And they take it, and what happens? It's high. And they say, oh, we're going to take it at the end of your visit. Why? Because they know that the very fact of you being in a doctor's office affects your blood pressure. The very fact of you expecting that they will take your blood pressure affects your blood pressure, and it in a negative way, right? It increases it. So then they take it half an hour later when you're done with the appointment, and guess what? It's your normal blood pressure, right? So definitely environment affects us. Any other?
A quick example, when we came for the first time to US, I don't know if it happened to you too, we went to donate blood. And we went to the questionnaire,
They won't take you.
and they said no.
Yeah.
I said, why?
Because you're from Romania.
Because you're from Romania. Okay, so what about Romania? You are by Ukraine. Well, the war was not yet on. Well, you were in the area close to Chernobyl. You remember the explosion from Chernobyl? So the radiation and, they would not take our blood because we were in that environment. So precaution.
And Samuel, I'd like to mention something. The word environment comes from a French word that means that is around you, right?
Yes.
And the closest environment to us today is our clothes, right? And we are wearing next to skin and mid layers and outside shells for hiking or for other sports. And it's very important what is next to skin. Would you like to elaborate? I know that you know more about that than I do.
I don't know if I know more about that necessarily, but yeah, I mean, you have to have, like, depending on the climate that you're hiking in, right? Like you'll have to have that, like, what is it called? It's like the warm, almost like skin-like.
It's called next to skin. Yeah.
Yes, first before you put any other clothes on.
I've noticed that one of the trends for ladies is popping up on my screen once in a while on Amazon is nap dresses.
Nap dresses.
Nap dresses. It's.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised. And is that related to
Yeah.
the rest?
Yes.
Our session last night is related to the environment, or
Yeah.
it's a mixture of those?
So in the book Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, he actually says that us sleeping in clothes is a newer thing in the last few hundred years, because we were actually, like, we sleep better without clothes. And at about 65 degrees, that it's because our body temperature needs to lower in order for us to, like, go into deeper sleep. So, fun fact.
Okay, one last set of questions here. So on the first night we talked about choice. Choice had to do with our cognition, right? Like the frontal lobe, the cognitive function of the body. And today we talk about environment, and we talk about how we interact with our environment through our senses. So my question for us is, which is more important? Is it the frontal lobe and rational and cognitive function, or is it the sensory type of functions?
Yes.
All of the above.
Yeah, I think the tendency, especially in the church growing up, was to downplay the emotion and the sensory, and say that always the rational, your reason should be the king.
Yeah, I've heard the statement that senses are sin and they come from Satan. I don't find that in the Bible, because we are to
Absolutely.
praise God, and we're to bring our senses in that praise to God.
On the other side, I like to emphasize there is always two sides of the coin. When Jesus Christ talks the parable of the four soils, for the first one, that is the seed, scattered around the way,
Around the path.
Yeah. Didn't have patience to get to the field, represents those who hear the word of God and do not understand it. And the fourth soil, the good one, is those who hear the word of God and understand. This is exactly the words of Jesus Christ in his explanation. And I was wondering, one day, why Jesus Christ did not plant a church the way we have them today, with music and worship, and it was somehow outside in the the same context as in the Garden of Eden. It was spontaneous interaction. It was in response to people's needs. Sometimes Jesus Christ fed them first before he, shared the gospel. Sometimes he had to heal them or so. Why Jesus Christ is emphasizing this side of understanding? I don't want to, push out the other one. I just want to emphasize this one.
Which one?
Understanding.
So, I agree with you, but the thing about it is, and I think you actually kind of answered your own question there, because you mentioned sometimes he would heal them first or feed them first. And I think it comes down to the fact that unless our needs are met, our frontal lobe will not activate properly. And I think that's, we can't pour ourselves out to God or to others from an empty cup. We have to fill ourselves, or an empty stomach. We have to fill ourselves and hydrate ourselves and
It was
nourish.
the pyramid of Maslow, right? There were the
so.
basic needs
basic
that
needs.
need to be addressed first, and then you can advance to
Okay, so God created both the frontal lobe, also the limbic system, or all the other parts of the brain.
Yes,
And
the amygdala.
Amygdala. And he created us with our senses. Our senses, as well as our reasoning, can be hijacked by sin and Satan, right? But they can also be filled by the Holy Spirit. So it is something for us to make a decision to surrender, to commit our senses, our rational parts to God, and to ask for His indwelling and His filling. So thank you so much. Thank you for the questions. Thank you to those who are panel here. And just a few quick, what do we call these? Action points. Okay, so these are actually you can find in your personal study guide as well. Remember that wonderful book that you received when you came here. So some challenge for you as we get ready to close here. What if you clean up or organize something in your environment? Is there something that you can decide even tonight? You know what? I've always wanted to maybe clean up the refrigerator or the pantry or the bathroom, or you know that place in your house. Don't delay, do it. Or try to make a schedule in which you will clean your house, maybe a room a day. And in a week or maybe in 2 weeks, every 2 weeks you go through everything in your house in manageable bits and pieces. Another one is to listen to some music to relax or to energize in order to enhance your environment. Sometimes it's nice to have music to relax. Sometimes in the morning, guess what I listen to? Baroque music, classical Baroque music. That's what I love, and it energizes me. It's Handel or Telemann or Bach or Vivaldi or some of the other Italian Renaissance composers. Choose a natural scent to enhance your environment. Okay, we have one here. One little candle doesn't seem to make much difference, but it smells good. You can come and smell it at the end if you want, okay? Plan a special outing to enjoy nature. Spring is here, and the flowers are budding, the trees are budding, the birds are out. Let's enjoy that. Take a hot or a cold shower to benefit your immune system, or a hot and cold shower. You know what that is? I do this. Okay, so this is, trust me, it works. Even if you do a simple thing, you take a regular shower and at the end, turn it all to cold. It's going to be, for the first 20 seconds, it's going to be really, really hard. Probably the hardest thing you do in a week, right? But if you stay in there, right, you're going to feel so good afterwards. And it has benefits for your immune system because I'm not going to get into it, but you can check it out on YouTube. TED Talks, hot and cold showers. You can look there. And something that is really kind of near and dear to my heart is maybe clean your car. You know, the environment in which you drive is important. I have to buy a new car right now, so I am test driving some of these cars. And it's so wonderful to go into a car that is clean and it smells like clean, you know, and then I go back into my car and it's not that. So yeah. The new car smell, yeah. So, by the way, they do this on purpose. The new car smell is a new car smell. It's not just coming from the leather or the plastic in the car. It's something that they on purpose do that to trick you to buy it, okay? So, there are on page 90 of your personal study guide, there are some wonderful resources that you can look at there. Laura mentioned the book Why We Sleep, Dr. Matthew Walker. And the topic last night was about rest, but this is a very good book, a very nice guy. You can find him on YouTube as well, Matthew Walker. Everything I saw from him, he's not a Christian. I don't think he's a Christian, but everything that he talks about sleep, about not drinking alcohol, not drinking caffeine anytime. He says even if you drink coffee in the morning, by the time you go to bed, it will affect you. And they know this because they research. That's what he does. So Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker, and also another book that Laura recommends, and that's Dopamine Nation by Dr. Anna Lemke. Gabriel says it's excellent. Dopamine Nation, okay? So that deals with our addiction to TikTok or YouTube or whatever other things that donuts. Yeah. So with this, may God grant you the vision to see Him as He truly is. May God give you the wisdom to see yourself as He sees you. May God give you eyes to see the needs of those around you. May God give you ears to hear His still small voice and to discern His plan for your life. May God help you hear the cares of your neighbor. May you taste and see that the Lord is good. May you feel His loving touch in every experience of your life. And may your presence be a sweet-smelling aroma for those who interact with you. May the space you shape today become a place where heaven feels near and where those who enter will find rest, joy, and a glimpse of God's love. Have a good night. Before you do, though, I think Gabriel wants to say something about tomorrow. And if you brought a guest, talk to me afterwards, okay? If you brought a guest, talk to me afterwards.
So we'll continue the journey of the acronym CREATION. C stands for choice, R rest, E environment, and tomorrow night is A that stands for activity, both mental activity and physical activity. So last night, we had a concept called sleep as medicine. Tonight, it was another concept mentioned, nature as medicine. Tomorrow night is exercise as medicine. Dr. Ashwani Garg is double board certified in family medicine as well as in lifestyle medicine. I think he's the only one certified in lifestyle medicine from all the speakers this week. Yes, Dr. Wells is also certified in lifestyle medicine. And Dr. Garg is a physician with Advent Health. We'll introduce him tomorrow night. He will share some of the latest research about the value of exercise. By the way, it is considered today that exercise is the most potent and the most underutilized antidepressant. From cancer all the way to longevity, exercise is one of the most important keys that we have to pay attention. See you tomorrow night.